There is nothing more important in my life right now than talking college football with you. We've left the link there in the chat. Please give me a call. We're going to run down all the scores from all the games, and I have some analysis to make on quarterback play across college football. But this is about your comments, your questions, your takes on your favorite teams and your rivals, and all of your hot takes as we get close to the end of week one, typically on a Saturday night here, from week to week to week to week as we make our way through the college football season. This is a wrap-up of the weekend, but of course on this glorious Labor Day weekend, we've got 5 consecutive days of college football: Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So we still have 3 major games, and I will enjoy those 3 games. Doubleheader on Sunday: Virginia Tech, South Carolina, Miami, Notre Dame, and of course TCU taking on Bill Belichick in North Carolina on Monday night. So my top 25 that actually makes sense, typically out on Sunday, of course, we'll need to wait until Tuesday. So the top 25 that actually makes sense, you may have forgotten about that, but the one ranking that does make sense in college football will be released on Tuesday. All right, let's get to the scores. Let's get to your comments, and let's get to the phone lines as well. We've left the link in the chat. Keep in mind, everyone that loves this show, loves what we do, that we talk college football more than anybody over the last 10 or 15 years on this platform of YouTube, that the Amazon link's in the description section of this video and all the videos. I am not asking you to shop on Amazon. I am simply asking, when you shop on Amazon, to please use the link that we provide. It is right here in the description section of this video. This one right here. Grab it, put it somewhere where you will remember it, and shop on Amazon using the link that we provide. We're here every night during the college football season, Monday through Saturday, 10 p.m. Eastern time. And because there is football on Sunday, I will be here post-game Miami, Notre Dame as well. So 7 days. There is no rest for the weary here at the Voice of College Football. In the chat, Kai's World of Sports, 1989 M. Ron, Clemsoning may be a thing once again. Would you rather be K-State or Clemson? Would you rather be K-State or Clemson? Would you rather be K-State or Clemson? I would rather be Clemson. Thinking about the big picture. Orange Chicken, rank Iowa State in the top 10. Rank Iowa State in the top 10. Okay. Well, I'm tempted, Orange Chicken, to start to rank teams and to give somewhat of a teaser preview glimpse into the top 25 that actually makes sense. But no, can't do that. We got 6 teams that are still eligible to make a big move in the top 25 that actually makes sense. So we still have 3 more games. Iowa State is defeated Kansas State. We will do the reasonable thing. We will rank these teams appropriately. So just understand that. Good thing we're not Bama fans. K-State escaped. I did not see any of that. I did see the game-winning touchdown. Adam says, Cade Klubnik has no class. Another terrible game. We got Ryan here. We got Tukey G here, and so forth and so on. We appreciate you being here. To Real MVP, Bleed Orange. I bleed orange. And on down the line. And I'm going to go through the scores first before we take any calls. Keep something in mind. And I do understand, as soon as I make this comment, you're going to come back and say, well, there was a certain particular coach that was still at this program at the time, so things were quite different. And I do understand that perspective. But let's also understand that it's a long season. I have talked to more of you people off the edge, whether that's gloating over the demise of a particular team or program, or being in despair because your team or program looks like it's dead even before we reach September 1st. Okay. Two years ago, 1 week later, week 2, or it may have been week 3. I believe it was week 2. Texas invades Tuscaloosa, defeats Alabama. I had to sit here for hours and tell those people that were gloating about Alabama's demise, and tell those people that were in despair because they were Bama fans, thinking the end has arrived, that Alabama could recover. Now, I do understand that it turned out that they were playing a much better Texas team than what we would have project Florida State to finish this year, number one. And number 2, there was a man by the name of Nick Saban running the program. I get all that. I am just saying, I'm the guy that in 2014 went into my employer the day after Ohio State lost to an unranked Virginia Tech team and said, I forgot to do something, and that is I forgot to request off for the night of the national championship game. I forgot to do that. And my boss said, we don't know who's going to be in the national championship game, but Ohio State just lost. Ohio State's not going to be in the national championship game. They lost to Virginia Tech this weekend. And I said, I need the national championship game off. I will need the national championship game off. We'll also look at my prediction record tonight against the spread. We're going to count those babies up. Manny, call-in link is in the chat. All right. Hopefully people can pass it around. We want to get to the scoreboard. Let's run down all the scores. Then we'll take your calls. Still in progress. You're here, and you're missing the New Mexico State Bryant game. I feel honored. New Mexico State leads Bryant 12-3 in the fourth quarter, 7 minutes left. We've got SMU on top of East Texas A&M, which I discovered today. First of all, that I did not know that there was an East Texas A&M, and they are actually Florida State's next opponent. So they start out the season playing SMU and Florida State, and it's not going so well for them right now. At 35-3, Mustangs in the fourth quarter. Fresno State leads Georgia Southern 28-14, coming off a loss to Kansas. Arizona State begins defense of the Big 12 championship. Of course, this game does not affect that, but the Sun Devils lead Northern Arizona 24-6. Between Arizona State and Arizona, they do a nice job of giving that, that payout, that big payday to Northern Arizona on a regular basis. Washington State leads Idaho at halftime 7-0. We've got a halftime score in Corvallis where Oregon State trails Cal 17-3 with the quarterback who at one point had committed to Oregon, who has the longest name in the history of college football that I do not remember, but I will commit to memory at some point. He is the starting quarterback at Cal in place of Devin Brown, who lost the job. The aforementioned Wildcats of Arizona at home against Hawaii lead 17-6. Hawaii, of course, coming off the big win against Stanford with the last-second field goal. I, for one, am rooting for UCLA to keep it close against Utah. I will show you soon why that's the case, but the Utes lead at the Rose Bowl 20-7, getting close to halftime. Washington leads Colorado State 14-7. Early second quarter, we got Texas Tech in a big way against Arkansas Pine Bluff 67-7. And then the big games and the big teams. Ohio State, I'm sure we'll talk about this, beat Texas 14-7. Penn State over Nevada 45-11. 46-11. The game that just concluded, maybe the most important game of the day. LSU over Clemson, 17-10. Marshall goes to Athens. Bulldogs win at 45-7. Oregon over Montana State, 59-13. Florida State in the shocker of the day. A mild shocker. Let's not go crazy on this one. 31-17, but Bama was a 14-point favorite on the road. Michigan, by the looks of that score, not too impressive. They did lead early 17-0. Then it was 17-7. It was 24-17. Anyway, Michigan wins 34-17. I expect at some point I'm going to, I've got to be on Michigan podcast. Most likely I typically get that invite. So I'm going to have to review this game and watch it. I did not see basically one play of this. I saw like a play here and there, but I don't remember them at all. So basically I did not watch this game. But if I take the time tomorrow, I may review in particular Bryce Underwood's performance. So I'll be looking out for a video possibly there. Florida defeated Long Island 55-0. Kansas State over North Dakota in what was a near upset there, 38-35. Oklahoma 35-3 over Illinois State in John Mateer's debut with the Sooners. Texas A&M defeated Texas San Antonio 42-24. Indiana less than overwhelming against Old Dominion 27-14. Ole Miss overwhelming against Georgia State 63-7. Iowa State defeated South Dakota, one of the top FCS programs, 55-7. Tennessee earlier in the day, a noon kickoff over Syracuse 45-26. Joey Aguilar with a nice day with 274 yards passing. Mississippi State defeated USM 34-17. Maryland's freshman quarterback, a hotshot, high 4-star, 5-star kid, got the starting nod and defeated FAU 39-7. Purdue shuts out Ball State 31-0. Somewhere Michael Hogue is rejoicing. Tulane at home against Northwestern 23-3. Pitt all over Duquesne 61-9. Navy buries VMI 52-7. Kent State wins for the first time in 22 games. They defeat Merrimack. Golden Flashes 21-17. Toledo, in what was the upset bid for many people across the nation, could not get it done. They do beat the spread, and that was good enough for me. Kentucky wins 24-16 over the Rockets. Fordham and Boston College. Eagles win at 66-10. We've got West Virginia over Robert Morris 45-3 in Rich Rod's second debut in Morgantown. UConn defeats Central Connecticut 59-13. Louisville, a big winner over Eastern Kentucky 51-17. It's Air Force over Bucknell, and our buddy Troy Calhoun gets the Falcons off to a good start after a down 2024, 49-13 in that one. Temple defeats UMass 42-10 as UMass has made its way into the MAC conference. Northern Illinois with a win against Holy Cross, but it was not easy, 19-17. Liberty over Maine 28-7. Arkansas had their way with Alabama A&M 52-7. It was Memphis over Chattanooga 45-10. Iowa in the Big Ten over Albany 34-7. Virginia all over Coastal Carolina 48-7. James Madison 45-10 over Weber State. Final score from Nashville. Vandy 45, Charleston Southern 3. Austin Peay defeated Middle Tennessee 34-14. It was Western Kentucky over North Alabama 55-6. Arkansas State, too much for Southeast Missouri State 42-24. South Alabama defeated Morgan State 38-21. Troy over Nichols 38-20. USC with 73 on the board as Lincoln Riley opened it up against Missouri State 73-13. Louisiana Tech over Southeast Louisiana 24-0. Utah State 28, UTEP 16, and new quarterback Malachi Nelson. BYU, no problems with Portland State 69-0. Rice defeated Louisiana in a ho-hum affair 14-12. It was Texas State 52, Eastern Michigan 27. North Texas 51, Lamar nothing. Tulsa defeated Abilene beating Christian 35-7. The other games played on Thursday, Friday, and also now Sunday and Monday. And we had more games than we typically do because these teams are not playing each other yet within conference and within the FBS, but a lot of the games against the FCS. So tons of games, tons of scores. And now we go to the phone lines. We got to Real MVP on the line.
Hello, Mark. How are you doing this evening?
I am doing just fine.
Well, Mark, I think you're going to have a pretty tough decision at the top of your rankings that actually makes sense.
Okay.
Because I think the obvious pick is Ohio State because they beat Texas.
Yeah.
But I do think there is a legitimate argument for LSU to be ranked the number one team in the country.
Sure. I agree.
Yeah. So have you thought about that, diced it up any?
I have not, but it crossed my mind in watching the LSU second half performance because I think that Clemson had every opportunity to take a somewhat substantial lead in this game. And LSU, much of their adversity was their own making, but still the game really just did not fall in their favor in the first half. And they continued to fight through adversity. And then they just got better and better and better and proved to be the better team as the game wore on. They were playing on the road. Of course, Ohio State was playing at home. And as you know, I try to base this on the performance, on the results, but there has to be assumptions made. So the first assumption that I have to make is comparing Texas and Clemson. And I do believe that Texas is a better football team than Clemson.
I do too, but I don't think the gap is so massive where it should overcome the complete advantage of playing at home versus the road. Both people have picked both these teams to win the national championship. Both of these teams are unanimous top 5 teams. I don't believe in Clemson. I'll say that from the beginning. I don't think Clemson's going to make the playoffs. But just based off what other people are projecting, I don't think it's clear cut. Texas is definitely better than Clemson.
Well, based on the performance today, I don't think we can say that because we've got new teams. We can trust the brands to a certain extent. And I don't know that they're, especially with Alabama's demise, I don't know that there's a brand that we can trust in college football more than Ohio State. So we pretty much know, especially once they go out there and they beat Texas by a touchdown and had a 2-touchdown lead until late in the game, that we can trust their performance and their brand more than anybody at this stage of college football.
I absolutely agree. There is some baked-in assumption we have to make when doing this, and I agree. Ohio State has earned the assumption over the previous years.
More than LSU.
Right. I just believe winning a game on the road against a top 5 caliber team is more and should be the ultimate factor. They have, to me, LSU's win over Clemson right now is slightly better than Ohio State's win over Texas, especially with the way the game played out. I thought that second half LSU controlled the game, whereas
Sure.
I thought Ohio State, Texas, there were some key plays in the game that if Texas converted it, probably the most obvious example is the 4th and 1. It could, I don't know who's the better team if they played in the playoffs right now. Whereas if these two teams played, I'm pretty sure LSU would win.
I understand that thought process, but I also, I hope I'm removing my bias as I attempt to. I know that Texas outgained Ohio State, but I also see the way Ohio State played that game and the way Julian Sayin played very much under control. He wasn't outstanding, but he wasn't asked to be outstanding. And the way Arch Manning looked in that game. And again, there's a level of confidence I have in this program and in this team and the coaching staff and everything that's been built. I think they're the most solid thing going in college football. And the biggest assumption we can make that I do think that Ohio State's a better football team than Texas.
Okay. I mean,
we have seen over the last 10 years, and I don't know, I understand when we start these discussions, it meanders from what's going on exactly right this second versus track record and recent track record. But I'm going to delve into a recent track record to let you know that actually Ohio State has played better outside the conference on the road. They have better results than playing at the shoe. their record at the shoe in big non-conference games is nothing overwhelming. So it's really, I don't think it's a great home field advantage. I think that they have a dominant record at home just because they've got a dominant record everywhere.
This is true, and it's hard to dissect when when you win 90% of your games as head coach. I completely agree with you.
But I get your point, and I totally get your perspective on this.
Right. Well, the thing I was going to say that surprised me the most, maybe in the Ohio State-Texas game, was Jeremiah Smith's really lack of ability for a second consecutive game against Texas to really create anything meaningful. Like, Texas is the only team to really have his number. They didn't completely wash him like the first game, but they neutralized him to a very large extent.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, in a sense, it was just as impressive because in the first game, they went to great lengths to take him out of the game. This game, they didn't necessarily go to great lengths to take him out of the game. He got his hands on the football 6 times. He was throwing the football. Well, he dropped 3 passes. So until further notice, because we hear the voice of college football evaluate these players and these teams based on the performance on the field, this guy's not the best player in college football. He was not the best player. He was not the best player on his team. He was not the best player on either side of the football. He was the best player, nothing. He was pretty much a 0 in this game. He dropped passes. The 6 that he caught produced all of 43 yards, 7 yards per reception. So if anything, he only got his hands on the football against Texas in the playoff 1 time. He did 6 times, and he did nothing.
Right. And I know people are like talking about Arch Manning's struggles, and I think most of that is because the name Manning. And I think a lot of people put the assumption that he played last year, but not really throwing the ball. And his name is Manning, and he's been trained by Peyton Eli, and he's going to come out gunslinging. I just didn't buy that. I was, he struggled like what a freshman quarterback should do. He struggled. He had his moments in the fourth quarter where he improved. This is one of the 2 best defenses he's going to see all year in the regular season. So I think he's just going to be just fine. And same thing with Julian Sayin, by the way. This is one of the 2 or 3 best defenses he's going to see. He played fine. These guys are going to grow and get better as the season goes on. I think people need to pump the brakes.
I agree with your overall assessment that people need to pump the brakes about anything that they saw, unless it was extremely alarming. Like the Alabama situation, that's fairly alarming because I don't know that Florida State's really that good of a team. I know that they're so much better than they were last year, of course, but I don't think we're looking at a top 10 team in the nation. I think we're looking at an ACC contending team possibly. So the Alabama situation may be dire. Not dire that they're a horrible football team, but dire that they should not probably at this point have championship aspirations. The thing I'll say about Sayin versus Manning is I totally agree with your assessment on Manning from a holistic standpoint that redshirt freshman quarterback, first big start, plays maybe the best defense in the country. He's on the road. He didn't get a whole lot of help, and that was the performance. And to your point, the last 2 drives of the game, he started to hit some throws. He hit a beautiful throw over the top on the left sideline. That was a tremendous, like an NFL throw. And the play right before that to get the drive started, he hit one. He drove one like down the seam that was picturesque as well. So he started to cut it loose. But on the anti-Manning side, I will point out that, and this was one of the keys to the game that I pointed out that actually turned out to be in Texas's favor, but they still didn't take advantage to win the game, is that the way to make a rookie quarterback, a freshman quarterback, comfortable is obviously not to get pressure on him. And even despite his nerves and everything that's processing through his head, if he's able to stand back there and pat the ball, then he can get comfortable when he's got that kind of talent, both innately and surrounding him pretty quickly. And Ohio State did not get much pressure on Arch Manning. And he still did not look at, he slings the ball sidearm. I've never really paid much attention to him. I've seen him throw these garbage time touchdowns, but I guess I didn't really watch him. But since I watched him for an entire game and got to see replay after replay after replay, if he was somebody else, if he had a different name, and if he was playing at Georgia Southern or something, I would be like, this guy is, based on this performance. And again, I'm not judging 17 for 30 for 170 yards and a pick. I'm judging standing back there, typically in the pocket with no pressure and not throwing the ball well, like missing dudes, throwing the ball in the dirt. He threw some ugly passes. Like for having two of the greatest of all time, or at least one of the greatest of all time, and one of the greatest clutch quarterbacks of all time as the other uncle, he did not take after them. His mechanics are not that good. He's a slinger. He slings it side. There were a couple throws that he made in the fourth quarter that he missed because he slung it and it kind of sailed on him, and the receiver could have maybe caught it, but it was an easy throw. He missed it. And I watched the replay, and I'm pointing out to my friend, I said, he almost hit the lineman in the helmet because he's throwing the ball 3 quarters, and he's got no reason to do that. I was just not impressed.
I mean, let's give him time. I think part of this is his mechanics, and I do think there's a percentage of this is he's playing one of the best defensive teams in the country as well. I think we need to give him a while. This is the first time he's playing against everybody that's on scholarship at an elite level. He's probably never been anywhere where he wasn't by far the most talented player in the country when he was on the field.
He was playing one of the best defenses in the country, and they played like it in terms of against the run for the most part, tackling, pursuing the ball, and in coverage. But they didn't put much pressure on him.
Right. I think that Texas offensive line is just – I just think they're just that good, Mark. I don't see him receiving much pressure throughout the year. Unless Georgia does something, I can't envision a world which any of these other teams – because their schedule's so weak. Because they have the same schedule as last year. I just don't think pressure is going to be much of a factor for him throughout this entire season.
So 2 things that I've said early in this show that could be completely misconstrued if people get their hands on it. Number 1, that I'm saying that Jeremiah Smith is horrible or something. I am just simply saying, I'm not saying that he's not the best player in the country. I'm not saying that he won't be the best wide receiver in the country and do all the great things that he did last year. I'm simply saying, if all you did was watch today's game, you had no idea who he was. He looked pedestrian, average. He did nothing. He caught footballs that 98% of the wide receivers playing in power conference football would catch. He made no spectacular catches, no difficult catches, and he dropped 3 easy passes that I would catch in the backyard 94% of the time. Like, he just did not look good. Again, Tom Brady's not looked good on occasion. So I'm not saying he's not a great player and that we wash away everything he's done over 16 games because he had one bad day. Not saying that. I'm just saying, in a vacuum, this game, he looked horrible. He looked pretty bad. And the other comment about Arch Manning, I am not damning the rest of his career that he's a nobody and he'll never accomplish anything, and that I'm a quarterback guru dissecting his mechanics. But I was justified a few times today just in listening to the games. I heard that out of a couple people's mouths, and I would credit them if I could remember who it was that said his mechanics aren't good.
Right. Final game I'll talk about, Mark, is the Alabama-Florida State upset. Obviously, when watching this game, it reminded me of last year's Florida State-Georgia Tech game when Florida State lost. I'm coming away with the same impression that Alabama is just not a good football team. And what I mean by that is they're not going to the playoffs. They're probably a borderline top 25 team. They'll win a few games they shouldn't, and they'll lose a few games that they shouldn't lose to. Mark, if you look at, let me read you Alabama's schedule, okay? Just tell me where the automatic win is in the SEC, okay?
Yep.
Georgia, Vandy, at Mizzou, Tennessee, at South Carolina, LSU, Oklahoma, at Auburn.
It doesn't exist.
Exactly. They could legitimately go like 3-5 or 2-6 in the SEC this year.
You're right.
And because of that, there is a legitimate case that Alabama could miss a bowl game. And if that happens, Kalen DeBoer needs to be fired.
Yeah. So this performance today, first of all, we need to see a whole lot more out of Florida State, but I am guessing that they're not that good. I don't think that this is a great football team that is going to contend for a national championship. I think this is like an 8-4 team, or maybe 9-3, because they play in the ACC, and they might push Clemson, and we may have a Clemson-Florida State game that is going to factor very heavily in the conference championship. Alabama, it's not like they rolled up 450 yards and they fumbled 3 times in the red zone and they had a couple deflected passes and they missed 2 field goals. No, they got dominated along the line of scrimmage. They couldn't run the ball. They gave up the run. They had every incentive to chase down Thomas Castellanos and make him look silly, but he ran his mouth. He backed it up. They couldn't back up their retort to his comments when they said, well, we'll see. Well, we did see. And they just look bad.
Yeah, I don't want to overreact because it's one game and it's 1 week. But Mark, since the Vanderbilt game, Alabama is 4-5 against Power 4 opponents. If you were 4-5 at the University of Alabama after having all the resources, after coming off the greatest dynasty of all time, you're in hot water. Because even if you're just an average coach that can steady the ship or slightly decline, that's fine. You wouldn't expect such a massive drop-off.
Yeah, I got to say I was duped by Alabama, because I guess I was just looking for something outside of Penn State, Clemson, and Texas to pair with Ohio State as a national championship, and Georgia for a national championship contender. And I just figured, okay, this Ty Simpson was a hot shot recruit at the time. People have forgotten about it, but he's been in this system for a long time. And we've seen this play out before where somebody's been hanging around a system for a long time. And I know it wasn't Kalen DeBoer's system, but he's been on campus working with these same players at least. He's comfortable, and now he's 2 years in the Kalen DeBoer system. And now they bring back Ryan Grubb, who, of course, was so successful with DeBoer at Washington in formulating that pass offense with Michael Penix. I thought, wow, this is DeBoer had to work with Jalen Milroe out of his comfort zone, doesn't know what to do with that kind of quarterback. Now he gets back to the kind of guy that he wants. And I just thought that would fix things. And I thought that Milroe also ruined Alabama's running game from its running backs. And that was a big issue. And I brought that up to Gary Harris from the Tuscaloosa TV station. And he agreed with me about Milroe just making this offense dysfunctional because of his talents and how they had to be accommodated. And that this would be a better situation. But through one game, no. They can't run block. They can't pass block. Ty Simpson didn't look good. And they're very ordinary other than having one really polished wide receiver in Jeremy Bernard and one outstanding young phenom in Ryan Williams. And the rest of them are a bunch of 5 stars, high 4 stars who have not transitioned to college football.
Right, and Ryan Williams also got hurt near the end of the Florida State game and has a concussion, according to Kalen DeBoer. So who knows how long he's going to be out for and if he's the same guy. I'm very pessimistic about Alabama, and it's not just because of this year, because of last year. The Kalen DeBoer hire, just a bad hire in general. They went with a hot name, a guy who just made the playoffs at Washington, hadn't done anything outside of that 1 year, and they're going down the tubes back to the mid-2000s, Mark. Auburn, as of right now, Mark, has a better team than the University of Alabama, and it isn't really that particularly close.
Well, it sure looks like it.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, Mark,
Appreciate you being here. All right, the real MVP getting us started off here at the Voice of College Football. Those are my predictions from today, and that's not all of them. Why I tacked on Coastal Carolina, I don't know. That just stood out to me, and I thought I'm going to throw that one in there too, because I typically just go after the top 25 games. And yeah, I thought I had something there. But I think when you add it all up at this point, 14-5 against the spread. So hopefully you're getting my picks. You can do so by being a premium member on Patreon or a premium member right here on the YouTube channel. I think I came in today at 5-1. We took Ohio State. And so Ohio State fans, you're going to be back happy with me, even though I leaned the entire offseason and said Texas is going to win this game. I think Texas is going to win this game. As recently as like Friday, I was saying, I'm kind of coming to the realization, yeah, Ohio State's going to win this game. We took Tennessee to cover. They did. We took Tulane to cover. They did. We took Toledo plus the points. They won. We took Nevada with the points. They covered. Marshall covered. I took Alabama to cover. That's my first loss of the day. I took Coastal Carolina plus the points. I missed that one. So that's what, 2, 4, 6, and 2. I took Illinois State with the points. That's 7-2. Took Michigan to cover. That's 7-3. Took LSU plus the points. That's 8-3. And right now, UCLA is losing by 13. I took the 6.5 or 5.5, whatever it was. Tack that on to the 5-1, and I think I'm sitting here at, whatever that is. Or I was 6-2, 8-3, 14-5, 14-5 against the spread. Again, you can get my picks. Premium member on Patreon or right here. All right, let's pick up this call coming in from Sean. Sean, what's going on tonight?
Nothing much, Mark. How you doing?
I'm doing well.
Hold on, I'm trying to figure out this new StreamYard. All right, whatever. I don't need to show my face if it's not relevant here.
Oh, I got you.
So, yeah, awesome to have college football back. Exciting first day, but I do kind of wonder. I mean, we clamor for these big non-conference showdowns, and we want to have these huge opening weekends. But when I watched that game today, I did not see two teams at their best.
Well, you're not going to see two teams at their best.
No. But we also want every game to matter as well.
Sure.
Exactly. So, I mean, I saw an Ohio State team that played a good game, deserved to win, but they've got a lot to clean up.
Well, sure they did.
And they were beneficiaries of some less than pristine play from the number one team in the country. You know, if Arch Manning plays a solid, clean game, I don't think we win today. And I mean,
so I get your point, and you're right. Yeah, if Arch Manning was Bryce Young in his prime, then Ohio State loses today by 2 scores.
Right.
But Ohio State was also fielding a quarterback with less experience than Arch Manning.
Mm-hmm. I'm not making any excuses for Texas. I'm not like trying to downplay Ohio State's victory. You know that, obviously. I wouldn't do that. But you know what I'm saying? Like we have these big early season, we want to have these big week 1 tilts.
Yes.
And all this stuff. Like next week is terrible. Like the slate for game, it's awful.
Yeah, there's like one game next week.
Yeah, we want to front load all of these huge showdown games. And these
at least this At least this year, but typically that's not the case. Usually week 2 is a really good week.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, but right now we see the pitfalls in having like these big week 1 tilts, these big week 1 showdowns. That was not a clean. I don't think anyone's going to say that was a classic Texas-Ohio State game, even though I think both teams are great. And they'll show that through the year, but the stars didn't show out today. It was a slog of a game.
Yep.
Alabama, Florida State. Who knows? Like that Alabama might turn her around and be really good this year, but they had that really awful performance because they just weren't ready.
Well, that's their coach's fault if they weren't ready.
Well,
the team that shouldn't have been ready would have been Florida State because they had a lot more new players.
Yeah. Yeah,
so what's your remedy to this? You don't want to see any good games in week 1?
I don't know what the remedy exactly is.
I think the remedy would be my remedy to the scheduling situation, among other things, because I would love to take over scheduling for college football because it's a disaster, would be spread out the wealth, and therefore we would have really good football games in every week of the season. But you have no cooperation between conferences or between schools. Therefore, people just the schools just schedule whatever they want, and therefore there's no oversight over the entire schedule of the entire sport, and there should be.
Oh, I mean, like you're right. There absolutely should be, but all of these schools have their own television rights deals and everything. So it's really difficult to ever see anything like this coming into play. The NCAA is just losing power, by the month. There's no. So I mean, like that's a bit of a far-fetched solution, but also, I mean, you've seen some people decry the expansion of the playoffs because it diminishes the importance of these games. So we get big games right now, but they don't mean anything because these teams all still have a roadway back.
Or we don't think they do. And we're probably right, but there are going to be instances in which we're wrong. There are going to be instances in which 2 of the top 5 teams in the country find themselves at 9-3 at the end of the year, and somebody misses the playoffs because they lost this game in week 1. But you're generally right. Yes, they've been diminished.
So, but like what I was pointing this out on a couple of other calls I was on this week was this Ohio State-Texas game was interestingly kind of the first play-in game to the playoffs. And what I mean by that is it's very, very, very difficult to see a scenario where the winner of this game ever gets left out of the playoffs. Like their schedule just is not going to permit them to be. They're going to end up with this probably at most 2 losses and this enormous carrot of a win at the end of the season. Whereas, now the loser, now Texas has less margin for error. So, I mean, but they're not out of it.
Oh, of course they're not out of it. But this is the conclusion to the expansion. And I'm guessing that most of the people are for expanding the playoffs, meaning not at this point necessarily, but after we had 4, that they wanted 8 or 12 or 16. And this is the byproduct. So we can't have both.
Right. Absolutely. Right. So I just Wanted to talk about some stuff from the other slates going on today. Yeah, Clemson-LSU. I was talking with Matt Zemek last night, and I said like this was such a more important game to LSU for a lot of the reasons we talked about just a second ago. I mean, the path for Clemson to get in remains virtually, I mean, only slightly altered.
Yes.
I mean, the clearest path for any ACC or Big 12 team is just to win the league, and that's a doable task.
Yeah, and I don't know what the metrics are going into the season about Clemson winning the ACC, but they are obviously the clear-cut favorite, and whatever the percentage is against the field, it's got to be as high or higher for them than any team in any conference in the country. Versus obviously LSU, the odds are still stacked against them to win the SEC. So this is an extremely important game for LSU. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to impress and put up a nice record for when they probably finish third or fourth in the SEC.
Yeah. You finish 9-3, you can say, hey, we beat the 11-2 ACC champions.
Yep.
At the end, and that will be that probably will be good enough to get them like the 11th spot in the playoffs. I would imagine, provided they have the season we expect from them.
Yeah, I picked LSU to go 9-3 and make the playoff.
Right? Yeah, you did. Did you pick them to win this game?
I ironically I did in the preseason. So my 9-3 prediction did include LSU winning this game, but when I picked the game, I picked LSU against the spread. I took the points, but I picked Clemson to win the game outright.
Oh, yeah, that's funny. And that was another game where, I mean, that was not a super clean or game or a thing of beauty. In fact, none of the marquee games so far have been.
With all things being equal, of course, I had a rooting interest in the Ohio State game. Clemson LSU, I could care less except for my prediction. I think it was a more entertaining game, though.
The Clemson LSU game was?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's perfectly reasonable, but I don't think you can say that Clemson's offense, their passing game was on point anyway whatsoever.
Not at all.
And I mean, the two top 10 games of today, the top scoring team had 17 points.
Yeah.
It's
and that's not all defense. That's quarterbacks and wide receivers not being on the same page, and wide receivers dropping throws, and quarterbacks. All those quarterbacks. Nussmeier played a good second half. He played a lousy first half. Klubnik was up and down the entire game and certainly had a lousy fourth quarter. Manning was bad throughout until the final two drives. And Sayin was controlled. He was dictated by the play calls that he wasn't going to produce much of anything. He played okay. And that's how I saw those four quarterback performances.
He was hampered by some drops in the game too.
Sure.
Mean, if a few of those receivers hang on to some more balls, maybe gets into a little bit more of a rhythm. But I'm saying when we get to the playoff portion of the football, I don't think 14 or 17 points are going to be winning football games. I really don't.
No, they shouldn't, or we're in trouble in terms of entertainment. Because again, I don't have any issue with defense winning a game as long as it's actually the defense that's winning the game, and it's not there was a slant route and the quarterback threw the ball 4 feet behind the receiver, and that's why the defense got off the field, not because the defense made a play and the corner is exceptional and he made a play on the ball.
Yeah, but it's just not chronic inefficiency from the offense that is just, making the defenses look good. Yeah, that's.
Yeah,
I mean,
it largely is.
But I mean, for the last, I don't know, 15, 20 years or something like that, it seems like if you're running a decent, like a solid offense at least, like you should be able to put at least 20 points on the board. It's not. I mean, like that's just a baseline for competence against virtually any defense.
One thing to consider, though, if you look at the scores of a lot of these other games that were fairly competitive among teams that were somewhat within the same realm of talent, uh, they were putting up some points in many of these games. So why were they able to execute offense when their players are much less caliber than the four teams we're talking about? So there is something to be said about the defenses.
Oh, there definitely is. I mean, they probably just those teams don't have the same level of athletes. They're not going to have the same level of defensive talent.
But you are right. We saw even the earlier games in the weekend among the bigger teams, we saw scores around 20 points. Georgia Tech and Colorado was 20-20 with a minute left. Nebraska won 20-17. Yeah, we saw games being played in that range. Yep. Auburn looked pretty good offensively last night.
What was that?
Auburn looked pretty good offensively. Now were not doing it throwing the football. They were running the ball down Baylor's throats.
Yeah. And Baylor's not an elite. They don't have elite talent. They're not an elite team by any stretch of the imagination either. If you have a running offense, I think that's a little bit that comes together a little quicker. I mean, I know this because I played high school football for an exceptionally good running offense, and we had a very limited playbook because we were almost an entirely running team, and we were kind of ready to go by week one. It just comes together a lot quicker than if you've got so.
Well, it's a logical conclusion that if you have to put a ball in the air, that there's many more things that can go wrong. Therefore, if it's not finely tuned and you're not in sync, then it's harder to execute rather than turning around and handing a ball off to somebody. That's
Well, I mean, you just have to. The playbook's a lot smaller, and they're like you said, there are just a lot fewer moving pieces involved when you're a primary running team. So I don't know. It was a very interesting week. In the first week or two of the season, every single year we get like wonky results, and we look back at the end of the year and what the two teams are, and we say, how did that ever happen? Like, do you ever see that? Have you seen that through the
I don't know that people are saying what they typically say the first couple of weeks of the season and say, this is the craziest season of all time. Look at what's going on. Yeah. And then we just have to look at each season and see that play out. I think we get wonky results every week in college football. There are roughly 60 games that are being played every week, and you're going to have some results that people are not anticipating. And I think those come down just about every week.
Yep, I completely agree. So, Mark, I'm going to leave, and I just want to ask one question. What did you learn from week one the most? Like, what was one thing that is there anything you, like, actually?
Probably the most disappointing portion of, so the most disappointing team of week one is clearly Alabama. The most disappointing facet of a team to me is Clemson's passing attack. Cade Klubnik was not as good as he was last year. He was not as good as he was against Texas in the playoffs, and his receivers were not. The entire passing offense was not in sync and did not perform to the standard that I expected.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. But also, we've seen kind of that from Cade Klubnik in the past. Have we not? Like, just fairly inconsistent play. Like, he was great in the playoff loss.
Maybe 2 years ago, but last year he was pretty consistent, throwing 36 touchdowns and 6 picks.
Yeah.
All right, Sean.
Yeah. Good talking to you as always.
Thanks a lot, man.
I'll catch you on the other side.
Sounds good. All right, let's keep it moving here at the Voice of College Football. Who do we have here? Lou.
Yeah, it's literally good morning.
It
almost
is.
1 a.m. Yeah, you know, the reason Clemson's not any good is because they brought in 4 transfers.
Yeah, they're not used to that.
Yeah, they should have stuck to the old routine. No, I'm here with my shovel to help throw dirt on the grave of Alabama, though.
I know you enjoy that.
Unfortunately, I can't participate because they're still beating Georgia in 4 weeks. I mean, death, taxes, you know the deal. Also, South Carolina went 9-3 last year, beat the ACC champion, and didn't get into playoffs. So I would disagree with your former guest's opinion on LSU going 9-3 and getting in with a win over Clemson. But also, Brian Kelly's going to continue to do stupid stuff and lose games at some point. He does this all the time. Not kicking the field goal there at the end of the first half, that loses you games. It's lost Brian Kelly games at LSU. Was it last year, the Southern Cal game? He did the exact same thing.
Yes.
What are you doing? I don't understand why you pay somebody $10 million a year to read an analytics chart. Analytics is a tool. It's not the rule.
Yes.
Analytics is ruining what would otherwise be some pretty good coaches. It's kind of a talking point, like, oh yeah, at the beginning of the year, defenses are ahead of offenses, and sometimes that's true. Sometimes it's not. But I'm a little hesitant here to jump to some of these conclusions about some of these opinions about these offenses not being any good, like Clemson, LSU, Ohio State, and Texas. That's 44 defensive starters. 30 of them are NFL players.
True.
These are 4 of the best defenses in all of college football.
Yes.
Arch Manning and Julian Sayin are first-year starting quarterbacks. Now, Nussmeier and Klubnik, that's a little bit more unexplainable there. I got what I thought I was going to get from the Texas-Ohio State game. I mean, not exactly, but like I thought, okay, low-scoring defense because of the quarterback situations. And then I was like, okay, Clemson-LSU will be like, you know, a Big 12 game from 10 years ago, maybe. So I was a little bit surprised at the lack of offense in the LSU-Clemson game. But
yeah,
even with Arch Manning, like, I'm not so quick to just say, well, you know, it's like you hear some other, well, now we know why he sat behind Quinn Ewers, or, well, I knew he was going to be a bust, or his last name wasn't Manning. Like, there's a lot of good quarterbacks in college football who would have struggled today on the road at Ohio State. Now, he didn't look good. I'm not making excuses for him, and maybe he ends up not being any good. But I'm not willing to jump to that conclusion after one bad game in week 1 on the road at Ohio State. I mean, that's a really good defense there that Ohio State has. I heard you talking about Jeremiah Smith, and that's the second most surprising thing to me behind Alabama being a complete yard turd. How many drops did he have again?
He had 3. And
Yeah.
what to me, Lou, is a little bit just as alarming is that he got his hands on the football 6 times and did nothing. Like catch the ball and, immediately drop to the ground. Like
Yeah.
made nobody miss, nothing. 43 yards on 6 catches.
Yeah, which is way better than last time he played Texas. But I would have thought that would have been some motivation for him in Ohio State to maybe try to get him more involved. They shut him down last time. Would he have 1 catch for 4 yards?
Yes.
Against Texas in the playoff. Now, I'm like you. It's the first. I still think he's probably the best player in college football, and he'd start on 32 NFL teams next weekend if he was allowed to. But that is a little weird that he had to type of the drops is even more alarming than only 6 catches. It's like, wow. I mean, I don't know if he had that many drops at all last year total.
Again, Lou, to me, it's not the 6 catches. It's that the 6 catches only produced 43 yards. And then you factor in the 3 drops, and they did throw the football to him 9 times.
Yeah.
So they tried to get him involved.
Yeah, I don't know. And the thing with Alabama and Florida State, and this is always the case in week 1, you have these preconceived notions about these teams, and then when they go wrong in week 1, how do you square that? Like, clearly Alabama's not a top 5 team right now, but are they top 15? And is Florida State top 15? I don't know. Think about what you thought about Georgia Tech and Florida State the minute that game ended last year in Ireland.
Sure.
Florida State was a top 10 team in everybody's preseason ranking. Georgia Tech was unranked. Same thing this year. Alabama top 10, Florida State unranked. Well, Georgia Tech ended up going 7-6. Beating a top 10 team in week 1 didn't make them a world beater.
Yep.
And I'm not convinced Florida State's, winning the World Series now because they beat up on Alabama today.
My opinion on Georgia Tech and Florida State was a little more tempered than other people's. Even though Florida State was a top 10 team, I had them more as an 8-4 kind of team. I had them as a inside the top 25 kind of team in my preseason prediction. And I had Georgia Tech kind of on their level and actually picked Georgia Tech to beat them. So they walked off the field and I thought, okay, well, this could have gone either way. And I wouldn't have been surprised by either outcome. So these teams are probably what I expected. But of course, Florida State turned out to be the biggest debacle in the history of college football.
Yeah. And I don't think that's going to happen to Alabama, but they got some serious issues. I think coaching and personnel, not just one or the other. The constant changing coordinators, like you mentioned with Ty Simpson, is a problem. This is his 3rd offensive coordinator in the last 3 years. He looks like he doesn't really know what he's doing. And I know Bama was without some players. Their top running back was out. Their top defensive lineman was out. But, this is football. Somebody's always out. And nobody feels sorry for Alabama when they're missing a player. They've recruited in the top 3 every year for 15 years in a row. Like, put the next guy in there and beat Florida State. I ain't trying to hear nothing about no Jam Miller. So, sure would have been nice if they had Justice Haynes today. Instead, he was busy playing for Michigan, though. What a shame that was. I don't know. Oh, DJ Lagway had 120 yards today. I don't know if you heard.
I know they scored 55 points. I did not bother with even looking at a box score.
Yeah, 120 yards for Lagway. So Heisman campaign underway there. Is amazing. Y'all are a little high on Auburn, aren't you? Why? They gave up 600 yards to Baylor and can't complete a forward pass.
Well, could they not complete a forward pass, or they didn't need to try to complete a forward pass?
They tried over and over again. They had no all of Jackson Arnold's yards are on broken pass plays with no pass. They can't keep Baylor off of Jackson Arnold. Now, luckily, he's a magician and was able to get loose and run for 100 yards. But that's not going to work against a real team. And giving up 600 yards to Baylor's not ideal.
Yeah, I think it was a pretty decent win on the road for Baylor for Auburn to you know, I think Jackson Arnold has found the coach that needs to coach the kind of offense that's going to feature what he does well, and Hugh Freeze found a quarterback that he can work with. I think this is a good match from that standpoint.
Well, I agree. It's a good win for Auburn in that they've lost 7 games 3 years in a row, which is why we're here saying it's a good win for them to beat Baylor. Who ain't that good?
A lot of people thought Baylor was good coming into the season. I picked them to go 7-5. But
Well, they're Big 12 good.
Yeah,
I mean, they're Big 12 good, and I love the Big 12. It's competitive. It's the funnest conference to watch. But
yeah,
I mean, there's not any great teams there. There's not any great teams there. I don't think. Is the SEC down bad? Because people keep telling me that.
well, we got the Alabama situation.
Yeah.
And other than that, I don't see where we've got any indication to make a judgment on the SEC.
Right.
LSU just went to Clemson and won a game. So that's a really good win for, until further notice, the third, fourth, fifth best team in the SEC. We will see against the still probable best team in the ACC. Tennessee did what I expected them to do. They won by 3 scores against what's probably going to be a pretty lackluster Syracuse team. I think the SEC went out and did what it's supposed to do outside of Alabama.
Yeah. Yeah. No big games Oklahoma next week.
Yeah.
I've got Oklahoma in that one at home. I don't know. You think Bryce Underwood can go on the road and win that game? Oklahoma's got a good defense, even last year.
Well, Uncle Lou, I don't know if we can go with my preseason predictions because I liked Clemson and I liked Texas, and I changed my mind going into the games today. So I picked Michigan in the preseason to win that game against Oklahoma, even though I've got Oklahoma finishing with a nice season at 9-3. That's going to be a heck of a game. I don't see either one of those two teams getting away from the other one. I think it's going to be a dogfight.
Yeah, if people didn't like the Texas-Ohio State game today, they better not watch that one.
Yes, exactly.
That might be like an Iowa versus Iowa State type deal, like a baseball score.
Yes, we've got those two.
Might be 8-5 or like 8-5 or 7-4, something like that.
All we need to know about week 2 is that Big Noon chose Iowa State.
Oh boy! Now is Dave Portnoy allowed there or no?
They probably have yet to hear about Dave Portnoy. Maybe in Iowa, they've been out
have internet there.
Yeah,
they don't even have internet there. It's a real shame. Well, Notre Dame and Miami tomorrow. Who'd you pick in that one?
Well, I try to reserve that for my upper tier folks, but we'll let that one out. I got Notre Dame covering the spread and winning the game. I think that's still a 2.5-point spread, so I like Notre Dame in that one.
Yeah, my thing on that, I do think Miami will have a better defense this year. I like what they did in the secondary, but they were so bad last year. I have to see it before I can pick them to beat a top 10 team. I know Notre Dame's got the new quarterback, but I think he'll be all right. Notre Dame ought to be able to run the ball. I think Notre Dame gets down there and wins by a touchdown.
So the two that you check off the box in favor of Miami is obviously they're at home, number one. And the last time anybody showed up and made any noise at that stadium was when they beat Notre Dame by a zillion points in 2017. And so I guess some of those people are going to come back 8 years later and show up once a decade. And then the other thing would be the obvious. You're pretty familiar with Carson Beck, and he's a veteran quarterback who had a great season 2 years ago, not so much last year, but he knows what he's doing versus first-time starter. So those are the two obvious advantages for Miami. But I just think Notre Dame's a battle-tested team, and I trust their coach and their coaching staff more than Miami.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I think it'll be a good one. But it'll be a good line of scrimmage game. Miami's got a good offensive line. Notre Dame's got a good defensive front. I think it'll be a good game. But yeah, I got to go with Notre Dame. I got to go with Notre Dame in that one too. And I won't ask you for your pick on the next one. But man, is anybody rooting for North Carolina? No, no, it's bad.
Now, is his girlfriend going to get the Taylor Swift treatment, the Travis Kelce Swift treatment? Is that what we're going to put up with?
Where they show her on TV every 5 minutes and all that? Oh, God, I hope not. I don't know. Hey, who do you think people are rooting against more, North Carolina or Nico? Nico's getting beat down right now, by the way, 23-10.
Yeah, I think that people just got rubbed the wrong way from an 18-year-old kid leaving a good situation at Tennessee, thinking that he could go from making whatever he was, $3.5 million to $4 million is what he attempted to do. Yeah.
The only people I know that want Nico to do well is his dad and Joel Klatt. I can't figure out what Joel Klatt's obsession is with Nico, but it's very strange.
Yeah, you've got a guy that again wasn't the reported salary like $3.5 million at Tennessee, so whatever it was, and he's paired up with a good football program, a good coach who knows how to run offense. They can develop him. He's got a great situation, and he just overvalued himself and listened to a lot of bad advice. And here he is at UCLA playing in front of 12,000 people and not surrounded by anywhere close to the same level of talent.
I don't know if they're doing it this year, but last year, when they would show the aerial shot of games at UCLA, they put a blue tarp over the entire upper deck.
Yes.
So you couldn't tell it was empty.
Yeah. Yeah. It's bad. It's bad.
It is bad.
It's like watching those old Miami Florida Marlins games where they have to cover up half the stadium.
Oh man, they're showing Utah's kicking an extra point right now, and so I'm looking into the end zone bleachers. The end zone bleachers in the lower deck are half empty. It's just a sad situation out there.
Yeah, they cost themselves a few dollars last year. USC apparently wanted to buy up those other tickets, but they wouldn't give them to them. Instead, they went the tarp route. And
man, that's bad there. That's real bad. All right, Mark. Well, we almost made it through week 1, buddy. We just got a couple more games to go.
Absolutely.
I lost my voice. I live streamed from 9 o'clock this morning to the end of the Clemson game. I can't.
I saw that you were on. You're killing those watch parties.
Man, you know how it is. It's feast or famine, and it's feast time right now for the next 3 or 4 months. So you got to buckle down.
You're right about that.
All right, buddy. Sure. Keep up the good work, Mark. I'll talk to you next time.
Appreciate you. Thanks for stopping by, man.
Yep.
The incomparable Uncle Lou stopping by to talk some college football with us. Good to hear from him. All right, let's go back in line. We got TriStar stopping by. TriStar, what's going on? Hello, TriStar. Sounds like he's sawing logs there. All right, TriStar. We'll see you tomorrow night. Rob, what's going on?
Hey, Mark. What's happening?
That's what it sounded like to me.
Yeah.
I know I've put people to sleep in the past. I know that's something that I have a great talent in doing. So apparently that hit TriStar tonight.
Yeah, maybe not the best call of the night, but one of the funniest. That's for sure. I just want to give a quick shout out and rip to the Missouri State Bears getting buried by USC tonight. I think Michigan. It's an interesting night for first time starting quarterbacks and or first time starting quarterbacks for their respective teams. Like Arch, it's not his first start, but it was his first start like in a as his team, like with the reins or the keys to the car, so to speak. So, Bryce Underwood, congrats on his first touchdown pass. I think first of many. Guy's going to be pretty good, I think. Had a pretty efficient day. Julian Sayin, congrats Ohio State. Big win for them. Like I said, I was on the other night. I think I said, I thought I was leaning slight Ohio State, slight Clemson, and slight Notre Dame. So I'm one of two so far. We'll see how tomorrow plays out. But hopefully Notre Dame wins and I can feel a little bit better. It is going to suck because I'm going to Kentucky tomorrow for vacation, so I'm not going to be able to watch the game live. I'll have to pick it up on TV later. But yeah, gonna be watching that at some point when I get down and get settled in.
Well, I credit those 73 points that USC scored tonight as basically Lincoln Riley taking out frustration of having to match up his offense outside the Big 12 against the Big 10 and Big 10 defenses last year, where he was only scoring like 20 or 25 points a game.
Yeah. It's funny, Mark, because there's I'm seeing so many things, like so many people saying so many different things about the football this week, and it's like, guys, it's week 1. It's like we have to watch these offenses. Like some of these offenses have a little bit more complex offenses than other teams, and it's a little bit harder to learn. Depending on the offensive coordinator. I mean, I was very impressed with Matt Patricia for Ohio State, defense. I mean, I knew Ohio State's defense is good. I mean, I think people are kind of forgetting about Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs, and Ohio State lost a lot of talent to the pros, but they're still loaded with talent. And I think that was just two good teams trying to feel each other out, trying to be careful with their young quarterbacks. And Arch didn't play well, but I think the guy is going to be pretty good. Like people just jumping off the Arch bandwagon, like it was ridiculous. The guy couldn't win, right? I mean, like 90% of the media had him winning the Heisman already, and he had never played. He never started a big game like this. It's ridiculous. Like let the kid get the feet under him, his feet under him. But hey, props to Julian Sayin. He played pretty well. I want to shout out Florida State, Mark. That was my favorite game of the day. Not just because it was a fairly close game at times. I mean, obviously the final score and the way that Florida State pulled away at the end, it wasn't all that close, but it was getting a little close there, like in the third quarter. But I loved that environment. I mean, that stadium atmosphere was awesome. That was college football, and the way that they stormed the field afterwards, and it just means everything for Florida State to get that game after a 2-10 season. I'm not a Florida State fan by any means, but I thought that was awesome. That was my favorite game of the day.
Well, I think what happens in a situation like that is you've got a very proud fan base and a very proud program that has been extremely successful. Now, obviously, it's been a roller coaster under Mike Norvell. I tweeted out at what point today after they got the game wrapped up against Alabama, Mike Norvell, 2021 can't coach. 2023, 2022 and 23 can coach. 2024 can't coach. Now he can coach again. So, but what I think happens is that generally the fan base in a situation like that says, you know what, Alabama's coming to town, and even though a lot of them probably had their doubts, and rightfully so, that they could win this game, we got to put 2024 aside. We sucked. We were horrible, but it's a new season. So we're 0-0. We got Alabama coming to town. Let's give it everything we've got, pack the stadium. And then if we lose this game or get embarrassed, then we'll be like, okay, we suck again. And we're going to be pissed off and we're going to check out maybe. But for right now, we'll give them a shot, and we'll give them our energy and our effort and show up for them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, on the plus side for Norvell, after you go 2-10, it's not that hard to do better, right? But I think this is what I mean about week 1. Like I put this in Reddit earlier, like on the post, for the post game, thread. I'm like, I just don't know if Alabama is that bad, or if FSU is that good, or if they're just a couple of that's the thing about week one. We need to see more film on these teams to kind of really put a definitive stamp on the identity of these programs. Alabama could be starting off slow. They could turn it around perhaps. I don't really think they're going to make a lot of noise in the SEC personally, but who knows? I mean, it's week one. And when's the last time Alabama went on a road game like that? I think I don't remember what the stat was, but I think that was like the first time they'd been to Florida State in ages, like to actually travel there as the road team.
Yeah. So they went to Penn State in 2010 and they had a home and home with Penn State. And then they ceased to play anybody on the road for the rest of Saban's tenure until they played Texas like 2 years ago. So they went over 10 years with playing nobody on the road. They played all those neutral site games. And then
I hate that.
Back to scheduling out of conference games on the road.
Yeah, if I were the dictator of college football, Mark, there wouldn't be any more neutral site games, with the exception of like maybe one or two venues here and there, but it would almost be completely just home and home.
So this is the sport that plays the fewest number of games, and we're taking games off of campus. Like they only have 6 or 7 games on campus. The typical, well, if you obviously take everybody and put them all together, they're 12-game seasons. So the average team only plays 6 games at home. Now the bigger teams obviously get their way and they get to play 7 or 8 at home. But if you put them all together, it's 6 at home, and we're taking games away from campus. So I would have no issue, especially this being a 5-day weekend of college football, that we would have a game in Atlanta and a game somewhere else, and that would be it. And the rest of them need to be played on campus.
Yeah, I agree. And I think maybe that's another reason I like that game so much, is just because it was Alabama traveling as a road team to an environment like that. It was just, you don't see that very often. So that was really cool. Obviously, the LSU game was a pretty competitive game, I guess. But Clemson just, if you talk about the biggest disappointment for me this week, it's Clemson. Like the fact that I thought that they would win and their running game got all of 31 yards or something like that.
Yeah,
and
that's bad.
Yeah, I mean, their defense is good. I liked the way that they were getting after it. I thought they made some really good defensive plays. But offensively, they got to figure something out. And I know it's week one and who knows, but I mean, when you go into halftime up 10-3 and you get the ball back to start and then you go scoreless in the second half, that's not good. So,
and Clemson took the ball away on defense twice in the first half in ways that aren't common, like rip the ball out of receivers' hands and set their offense in a good place to score. And of course they did both times. One time they just kicked a field goal. So it's not like their offense went on some, I think they did have one good drive in the game. But what's disappointing there is, even though you can discard that as week one and everybody's working out the kinks, Klubnik and those 3 top receivers, they were together all of last year. These guys have worked together for more than a full season. They were together, most of that contingent, the year before in 2023. So they should be pretty sharp. The thing I'll say about LSU is they got dominated through the first quarter into the second quarter, but late in the second quarter, they started to catch their stride. Now they blew scoring opportunities, but they were moving the ball. And then in the second half, it's not like they went on a scoring binge and just tore up the Clemson defense, but they were consistently moving the ball, and Nussmeier got in the flow and their receivers, and they looked like a capable passing offense.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, Klubnik was pretty disappointing. Nussmeier didn't really have an amazing game. I mean, quarterback play for the most part today was kind of mild at best. Yes. You know, there's a few standout performances this weekend, but hopefully Carson Beck and CJ Carr can make it a little more interesting tomorrow. Hopefully mostly CJ Carr, because you know me. But Yeah, I guess my hope for the season, Mark, is that I would love to see Florida State have a bounce back year. Like I said, I'm not a Florida State fan, but I do think, especially after watching that game and just kind of seeing that awesome environment again, I think college football is better when certain programs are good. So like seeing Florida State have a good season, I'd even be okay with Alabama bouncing back and trying to make a run. Like I like the good teams to be good typically, and it makes more competitive and interesting games later on in the season. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Week 1, so nobody go do harm to themselves after this week's games, because there's always room for improvement. But
For sure.
I got to get going. I got to get ready for my vacation. But it's always fun talking to you, Mark. And go Irish.
Enjoy your vacation. Thanks, Rob.
Yep. Thanks.
All right, we will keep it moving here at the Voice of College Football, and remind everyone that you can get my picks on the upper tier, the betting tier here on the main channel, and also over on Patreon. And you're kind of missing out here. 14-5 against the spread. Now UCLA is going to screw that up for me, but that was my problem in placing my faith in UCLA tonight to keep it close. But still, hey, 14-6 against the spread, I understand, is fairly decent. And that's the start that I've had to the college football season. So we've got a few members in the upper tier, so join the crowd and get my predictions. You get my 20 or 25 predictions per week. You get Steve Dace's 12-pack. You get Corey Bradd's 12-pack. You get Matt Zemek's 12-pack. And you get Steve Merrill's Under the Radar selection on that upper tier. All right. Welcome in the Voice of College Football. Look at David Greenshield, I'm sure with a smile on his face.
Yes, Mark Rogers. What an interesting day in college football. You know what? I have a few thoughts. I'm going to get to the Buckeyes. I did want to say, people are talking about the offenses versus the defense. I actually had this discussion with Uncle Lou at one time about one of the things I find fascinating about football is roster construction. And, what side of the football dominates versus the other side of the football. And, what I found interesting is when I looked at the 18, 19, and 20 national champions in college football, I saw a more dominant offensive side of the football, particularly the quarterback position, the skill players. Obviously, we can say particularly 19 LSU and 20 Bama were all-time offenses. And then what I said to Uncle Lou is what was the flip from 21, 22, and 23? And I was saying this before the start of last season. What was the strong side of the ball of those three teams?
21, 22, 23?
Yes.
Defense.
There you go.
Georgia,
so, I mean,
sure.
Right. I mean, isn't it interesting how, like, in a short period of time, the thing can flip real quick?
Yeah.
I mean, how, basically you can have team where the offense is so trending and building a dominant offense is your path to winning a national championship. And now building a dominant defense is your path to winning a national championship. I don't know if you have some thoughts on that, or if it's just a cyclical thing, or, it's something that I've been thinking about.
Well, I think your assessment is dead on.
Okay.
Now, whether that particular team, meaning 2019 LSU, 2020 Alabama, and then the three Georgia and Michigan teams were just one of a kind for that season, what we would need to do, I think, would be to look at the entire trend of offensive and defensive football for that particular season to see, okay, was this just an outstanding team that seemed to be heavy, or not seemed to be, was in reality heavy on offense or heavy on defense?
Mm-hmm.
Or was the entire season, were the seasons in the late 20 teens through 2020, were those seasons tending to trend offensive in an offensive direction? Which, off the top of my head, I think that they were.
Right.
We were getting just crazy scores and more offense and more yardage, not just from the best team in the country, but from everyone else, or most everyone else. We had the Tennessees of the world under Hendon Hooker scoring a zillion points, and other teams. And of course, the Ohio State offenses were prolific. as well. And we, of course, had the Big 12 doing what they do. And we had Lincoln Riley running those offenses. Whereas over the last 3 years, you had Georgia, Michigan, and the Ohio State team was pretty balanced in my estimation.
Yeah. But I think we had the best defense maybe in the country last year.
Yes, and not the best offense.
Right,
Sure.
exactly.
Not
But I think our offense was probably ahead of the game. Now, I would say that 22 Georgia probably had a better offense in 22 because Bennett put up better stats in 22 than he did in 21.
Yeah.
So it's just something that I find fascinating. I remember like in the late 90s and early 2000s in the NFL, I remember seeing that transition because the last 3 Super Bowl champions were the 2 Denver Bronco teams and the 99 Rams. And then you flip to the 2000 Ravens, the 02 Bucks. And those early 2000 teams were built on defense, and the late 90s teams in the NFL were built more on offense. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and even the first couple Patriots championship teams were number 1 or number 2 in the NFL in defense.
Right. Yeah. Those early Brady teams were defensive teams. McGinnis, Bruschi, Ty Law, they were just loaded on the defensive side of the ball. Yeah. So I think that we do need to give some of the defenses some credit. That's where I was going with this overall, Mark. I think that, I've always said that I can enjoy a 17-14 game in as much as I can enjoy a 41-38 game. I remember I called you after the Rose Bowl a few years ago when Ohio State beat Utah, and you were like, I said, Mark, wasn't that just a great game? And you just lambasted that game, by the way. You said, no, that's terrible. This is just awful defense.
Well, so I'll take everything that you just stated, and I'll just add another layer to it. I can enjoy a 17-14 game, and I can enjoy a 45-42 game.
Yeah.
Just as long as the 17-14 game is not the byproduct of quarterbacks who can't connect with their receivers who can't separate or who can't hang on to the football and all of that. If it's 3rd and 8 and the receiver runs a slant and the quarterback misses him and the defense, you and I could be out there on defense.
Sure.
And it wouldn't matter. They missed the throw. We're off the field. That's different than pass rush, elite pass rushers, elite corners play, guys that can tackle, guys that can break on the football and cover and break up passes and are really good. And you see this in the NFL, obviously. And I'll go back a few years because I don't watch the NFL anymore to the Tom Brady and Peyton Manning and Aaron Rodgers days when those guys were so good and their receivers were so good that when you saw a 38-35 game, you could see a 38-35 game with 2 really good defenses on the field. But those guys were so good that they could throw it in such tight windows, and the receivers were so good that it was fun to watch because they weren't just throwing against air because the defenses were so bad. They were beating excellent defense. And so that's why I can appreciate, as long as the offense is executing against really good defense, or the defense is just so that dominant and it's not because of offensive ineptness.
Right. I always say it's the Marino versus the 85 Bears. Sometimes you just find a great enough quarterback that can crack the code of a great defense.
Yeah.
But, I wanted to say, as far as today goes, I was looking at it. Yeah, I watched Alabama and Florida State. I want to comment on that real quick. I was somewhat like you said, with Grubb as his OC, with Simpson as his quarterback, because I never thought that Milroe was a DeBoer type quarterback.
No.
I was just of the bottom line belief that DeBoer wanted a pure pocket type quarterback. He doesn't want the dual threat kind of quarterback.
Nope.
He wants a pocket guy, i.e. what he had in Penix, with Washington. So I thought that Simpson would be an upgrade. But I tell you, the same thing is happening with Alabama that even happened the last few years under Saban, which is, when was the last time that Alabama built a dominant offensive line that can just road grade people and they can just run the ball down people's throat? You know what I mean? Like the 2010 Alabama teams that I watched used to be able to do that to people. These Alabama teams, even towards the end of the Saban era, weren't doing that. I don't know if you have a thought on that.
Well, I think you're completely right. And why, I don't know. I think it would have to go back to coaching because their recruiting has not fallen off. These Kalen DeBoer classes are first rate. I think it's, I have always said that the most difficult position to recruit,
Mm-hmm.
the most difficult to coordinate, and that falls on the position coach, is the offensive line because I think it's the most important position, number one, outside the quarterback, collectively, not that each player is, but collectively as five, that they are the most important position on the field after the quarterback. And you have to orchestrate, they have to work together. The linebackers somewhat have to work together. A defensive line somewhat has to work together. A secondary somewhat has to work together. But the offensive line is far and away the most orchestrated group. So the offensive line coach, by and large, to me, is the most important position coach. And maybe they're not getting it done there.
I would tend to agree. Maybe it's just the development and the Jimmies and Joes. Obviously a lot of it comes back to coaching too. But I mean, that was something that I really noticed. I look at the schedule, Mark, and I say Tennessee, South Carolina, LSU, Oklahoma, and then they still have the rivalry against Auburn, and they still have Georgia, and maybe Georgia. I know Uncle Lou feels that they're forever doomed against Alabama, but you look at that schedule, Mark.
Yeah.
Especially after getting off on the wrong foot today. I mean, is even 9-3 doable with Simpson at quarterback and the offensive line situation that we just referred to? I have some doubts.
Well, I can easily answer your question. If they play like they did today, then it's not doable. But if they grow and improve, they have the talent. Certainly, they have the talent to play anybody on their schedule and beat anyone.
Okay, to the SEC, Mark, how much did Clemson, with what Alabama looked like, Ohio State beating Texas, did Clemson save the day a little bit by beating LSU? I mean, that would have been three of their maybe top four teams going down if that would have happened.
Did Clemson save the day?
By losing it. I thought Clemson lost it a little bit. I mean, LSU did win it, but, I thought Clemson lost it a little bit too, as I guess kind of what I'm saying.
So, yeah, did Clemson? Well, I think in sports, more games are lost than are won. So generally, that holds true in football and certainly early season football. But I thought LSU just got better and better and better as the game wore on. They finally started to hit their stride in the passing game after playing horribly in the first quarter and a half, throwing the football. Their receivers, Nussmeier, were not on the same page.
Yeah.
And the Clemson defense was all over Nussmeier. So the offensive line improved. The pass protection, I don't know if they made adjustments up front, but they pass protected better from about halfway through the second quarter on. And then the only thing that they did in the second half that they failed to do in the second quarter was complete drives and stop making mistakes. And that's exactly what Brian Kelly said at the halftime was, we're fine. We're playing better. And as soon as we eliminate these mistakes, we'll be fine.
Let me ask you, is Brian Kelly maybe finally righted the wrong that is the LSU defense? I mean, that thing's been a sieve the last few years. To me, it wasted the best offense in the country in 2023 in a generational year by Jaden Daniels and two future NFL receivers in Thomas and Neighbors. And if they'd have played a lick of defense in 23, I think that LSU team could have won the national championship.
Well, Blake Baker is back for another season as LSU's defensive coordinator, and he's got a pretty spotty track record. And when I say spotty, I don't mean all bad. I do mean spotty. He's got his good points and his bad points. So maybe he's put something together there. They certainly have Well, they've got one of the best players on the defensive side in college football in Harold Perkins, who missed most of last season, number one. Number two, they invested a ton in the transfer portal on that side of the ball.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it'd be interesting to see it. You know what? I got to say, though, Mark, are you still that impressed by Nussmeier? I looked at his game log from last year, and there was some spotty performances against even
Sure.
good teams last year where,
Yeah.
and a lot of guys see him as a future NFL quarterback. I still have my doubts.
Okay. The defense I will make of Nussmeier would be,
Yeah.
first of all, between the two big games that were played today, he was the best quarterback of the four. And that's not saying much.
Yeah, that's like being named valedictorian of summer school, Mark. It doesn't
Well,
necessarily
he
carry
was.
with it a lot of merit, but
He was better than Arch Manning. He
yeah.
was better than Cade Klubnik, most importantly for him. And Julian Sayin was kind of like an NA, like not available, can't be rated because he just wasn't given the opportunity. I thought he did fine with what he was given and what he was asked to do, especially for a first-time starter.
Yeah.
But Nussmeier was the best of the four quarterbacks. And I will also say that if you look at his ground game last year, it was almost non-existent. So they're
That's
supposed to
true.
have a better running game this year.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. If I'd have done a playoff prediction, I probably would have picked LSU to make the playoffs. Maybe that's also a little bit by default. But yeah, I think that if they just play a little bit better defense, I think they're a playoff team. On to the Buckeyes, Mark. I did want to just kind of give you a few thoughts. I talked about it on our Buckeye show with Garrison a little bit earlier. I do think that overall, I will say this about Sane. He wasn't helped by the drops. I think there were 4 or 5 drops and some key drops in that game. But didn't you feel that a lot of his throws, most of them were inside the strike zone? Like it didn't seem like there was a lot of throws he was dirting or, sailing over receivers' heads, that a lot of the throws were in receivers' hands. I mean, it seems like his ball placement was pretty good.
Well, he went 13 of 20.
Yeah.
I can't think of any outstanding catches outside of the Carnell Tate play.
Yeah.
So he underthrew that.
Yeah.
Now, he may be intentionally, maybe he was playing it safe and thinking, I'd rather underthrow it and give Tate a shot at the ball than throw the ball outside, out of the back of the end zone. So
Right.
maybe that was a little bit determined. But outside of that play, I can't think of any outstanding that anyone bailed him out. And think Max Clare dropped a 4th down play on the first drive. Who knows? They
That's
might have
right.
scored. They probably would have scored. They would have been at the 35-yard line.
He missed Smith down the field, by the way, Mark.
Yeah, but he delivered the ball right to the tight end right there. The ball would have hit his chin if he would. And I saw Ryan Day talking to him on the sideline, and I heard Joel Klatt say he didn't look at Jeremiah Smith, and they got to get the ball to Jeremiah Smith. And I'm thinking it was 4th and 3, and he threw a perfect pass to the sideline to a guy that's supposed to be one of the best receiving tight ends in college football, and the ball hit him right in the face mask.
Yeah.
What was he supposed to do? Anyway. And Jeremiah Smith dropped 3 balls. Well, that turns his 13 out of 20 into 17 out of 20.
Yeah. Yeah.
That seems pretty good to me.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I think as an Ohio State fan, he didn't seem rattled. The throws seemed accurate. He didn't put a throw into harm's way.
Yeah.
I think there's some net positive with those things.
Absolutely.
So, and then I do think that Hartline inhibited the game plan a little bit. They were in jail a couple times, backed up with field position. So that also needs to be mentioned and put into the equation as well.
That was going to be my next point. Yeah.
Yeah.
They knew what they had on defense. They
Right.
were watching Arch Manning, and they were watching their defense, and they were not wanting to give the game away. And Texas also knew that. And if you remember, a lot of the time that Julian Sayin found himself in the most danger in terms of facing a pass rush was when he was back in his own end and he was kind of not running for his life, but was flushed out of the pocket in the end zone several times or deep in his own end, and not given much of an opportunity. And I thought he threw a really good. This is another one where Clad gave more praise to Carnell Tate, and I get it, to Sayin, but Sayin was running almost at like a 3/4 dead sprint to his right and had to throw the ball probably 25 yards plus down the field to get it to Carnell Tate, and threw it perfectly.
Yeah, I was going to say, I said this to my dad watching the game. Once they were just waiting to cross midfield to take that shot. I mean, you could just see it. I mean, once
you're
they
talking about that, I'm not talking about that play, but
right. Well, I'm referring to the Tate touchdown, but they were waiting to cross midfield before they tried their deep shot. So, I will say about the defense. I want to comment about Arch real quick. I think the back seven of the defense could be the best in the country. I said that from the start of the season. I said it on Ohio State show. I think Reese is going to be really, really good. Watch out for him this year. Styles is still very good. And I think their secondary is going to even be better this year than it was a year ago. Best safety in college football, defensive player in Caleb Downs. And I think their corners are going to be better than they were last year. If they find a little bit more from an edge rusher, Jackson, their one edge, got hurt today. That defense is complete, I believe, at that point.
I hear you, David.
I did just last thought on Arch Manning. I know you got callers here, Mark, but I did want to say, was it just nerves early, do you think, Mark? Because there was a lot high, a lot in the dirt. And, the throws were just off, and he did have receivers open, and, a few of them were from clean pockets. And then on top of that, and then his last 2 or 3 drives, he throws a deep out accurately. The touchdown throw was a good throw. The throw down the sideline to start the drive when it was 14-7 was dead on accurate.
Yep.
I mean...
I already went through my whole Arch Manning analysis.
Okay, got here late.
So I'll make it kind of quick.
Okay.
His mechanics were terrible in that game, and I don't know if they're terrible all the time because I've never seen him play a complete football game. Nobody has at this level, so I don't know. The guy slings the ball sidearm. I don't know. I don't know if that's him every game or not, but I thought his mechanics were terrible, and you could see him sailing passes and had very easy crossing routes that he was missing that are easy throws. But you're right. Late in the game, he hit those throws. So, all right, sir.
All right, my friend. Hey, live stream tomorrow after Notre Dame and
I do believe so.
Okay. Well, we'll have to get back together and talk some more football, Mark.
Appreciate it, David. Have a
Take
good
care
night.
of yourself, my friend.
We are coming up on 2 a.m. I think we're going to do our best to get out of here in the next 10 minutes. All right. We got Burks on the line. Burks, what's going on tonight?
Hey, Mark. How you doing, man?
I am doing well. How are you?
No, how was the Michigan game? So sorry, I'm gonna actually have to talk Michigan just because that's all I like to talk about.
Apologize. But, they are in the realm of college football, so we do talk about Michigan here.
I know you do hate them, but it's fine. Like I just have to talk about them. I hope you don't hate me for this, it's just this. So apparently, man, like this game, it's like I see some stuff of Underwood. He did some amazing stuff, but man, our receiving room, man, I don't know if you saw that, saw the game, but they need to like step up because Oklahoma, dude, they look John Mateer and their defense, man. And I know Michigan played New Mexico and Oklahoma played Illinois State, but like. That game, what do you feel, in your opinion, is like who's going to win that game if you were a betting man with Oklahoma and Michigan?
Well, I've got a betting tier here. So for those people, they get my predictions. So that's off limits. So I believe that I can only go by what my knowledge of those two football teams is, because I did not see one play of the Michigan game. I did not see one play of the Oklahoma game. Yeah, I'm somewhat lying about the Michigan situation. Did I see one play? Yeah, I saw about 5 or 6 plays. I cannot recall any of them. Like it, I had them on another screen for a while, and I wasn't paying attention. And I just thought, you know what? I'll go back, and I'll have to prepare for Michigan podcast anyway. So I got to watch that game or some extended highlights. And I did want to go through all of Bryce Underwood's passes to give some kind of an analysis on that. But at this point, I've got zero to say about that entire game because I just don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, no, that's hey, that's fine, man. That's did not know that. That's fine. So then what was I saying? Ohio State and Texas, because it's something that did you watch the game? Ohio State and Texas.
Yes.
Okay, of course. Yeah, you are a Buckeye
Watched
after
every
all.
play of that game.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay, cool. That's great. How did you like so what do you rank? I'm just surprised, like curious. What do you give a grade for Ohio State and Texas, like in your opinion, on like what their team grades are? So like, do you give Ohio State a C, a B, or do you give Texas a D or F? Like, what is your grade on those two? How they
Well, I
played?
tend to be more precise than that. So let's break it down here. I would go this route. Ohio State pass offense B minus, because the protection was good. Sayin was good. He wasn't asked to do much, but what he was asked to do, he was fine. He managed the game. He was really good considering it was his first start. The receivers, for having the best receivers in the country and arguably the best tight end room in the country, were marginal. So a B minus, yeah, for the pass offense. The run game was a D. The run game was largely terrible. CJ Donaldson looked pretty impressive. He moved the pile. I will say this about their running game. When they needed a yard, they got it. But man, they couldn't move the ball otherwise, running the ball. The rush defense was a B, a solid B. They did give up some rushing yardage. Trey Weissner did have a decent game for Texas, but they contained it. They didn't give any big plays. They didn't get gashed by any stretch. They contained it. And again, Texas statistically ran the ball much better than Ohio State. But if you watch the key situations, Ohio State stuffed Texas almost every time, and Ohio State got the yard when they needed the yard. So their rush defense, solid B. Their pass defense was A minus, because they pursued, they covered. The only thing they didn't do is I was not impressed with their pass rush for most of the game. There you go. I think we lost Burks here.
I'm here.
Oh.
Can you hear? Yeah.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah. So okay, yeah. No, that's cool. So no, it's good you told me this, because I'm trying to compare Michigan and Ohio State, like how they're great. I didn't watch the game, first of all. I fell asleep, believe it or not. So, but it gives me a good indication of these grades they're giving me, because so I know like how Michigan compares to them when the final week comes for regular season. But yeah, no, I heard. I have to give Julian Sayin some credit though, for actually winning this game and being really, good. He was a good game manager at the end too. I got to give him credit. For and beating a number one ranked is your first game. Impressive Ohio State win. And I'm usually a guy who really doesn't praise Ohio State much, but when I see Ohio State do good stuff, I'll praise them. So, yeah, it was pretty impressive. I won't lie. So.
All right, Burks. Well, we appreciate you stopping by. Anything else?
Yeah, just the last thing I want to say is if you're seeing this Cal game, man, California, this QB, true freshman, is going off. Like, he looks like a Patrick Mahomes.
Okay.
And he is looking like super good, man. Like, and it's gonna suck because I feel like Cal is a team that's went through so much, and I feel like next year, man, teams are gonna go in the transfer portal and giving him offers, and he's gonna go away. And that's the shitty part about college football, what it's becoming. And, it just sucks. But yeah.
You're probably right.
Yeah. All right, cool.
Right, Burks?
That's all I got to say. Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, of course. Appreciate it. Bye.
All right. Ironically, as you saw possibly on the Fox broadcast at the end of the Ohio State win, that Julian Sayin, ironically, was the first quarterback to defeat a number one team in the country in his first collegiate start since, did anyone see this? Julian Sayin, first quarterback in college football to defeat the number one team in the nation in his first start since, we'll see if anybody gets this. Michigan man's going to close us down tonight.
Jim Harbaugh.
Jim Harbaugh. There you go. 1984 against Miami.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Yeah, I'll make it quick, man. Arch Manning, I know this has been hashed 100 times, man, but wow, was that a bad performance by Arch
He
Manning.
was terrible.
And I know someone brought up the drive he had. Well, but the last drive he had two back-to-back atrocious throws on the third and fourth down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you now this is probably said before, but we really haven't seen him actually play. Really, I mean, he's had he played against some bad competition. He played sparingly. Could he just be that bad? Is that like a possibility? Because his mechanics are terrible. I mean, there's some of the worst.
Exactly. And this was my point from second number one that I sat down here and started. That's the first thing I talked about. So I've gone over this a few times, but my assessment of Arch Manning, it goes well beyond like that he was playing maybe the best defense in the country, or that he was on the road, or that he was nervous because this is his first start against a good team, and all those things, because the mechanics are terrible. Like, he was throwing.
The plays
you would
were
not
there.
think that he was Eli Manning and Peyton Manning's nephew, because they are traditional, over the top, cock the ball, deliver it, and he's slinging the ball and it's sailing and it tails off because of the way he slings it.
Well, even worse than that, Mark, how many times did he just throw the ball at the dirt?
Yeah. The first play of the game, it started.
Or the 3rd and 5 in the red zone, which, by the way, he had a wide open crosser. If you rewatch that play where he throws I think it's 3rd and, it was 3rd and 5, because the next play he tried to hit the corner of the end zone. So the play before that, if he just hits him in the chest, it's probably first down, but he throws it at his feet. It's not even, he can't even attempt to catch the ball. And he had 83 wide open on a crosser. So I don't know. I'm sure. Have you looked at the stats? Like, Texas outplayed them in every statistical category, every single one: rushing yards, yards per play, total yards, yards per carry. There's not a single statistic. Third down conversions. Where Ohio State won the game was the short yardage. When they needed to convert, they converted the ball.
Yep.
And obviously the touchdown pass. But, I mean, Arch Manning, to me, was what lost them that game. The plays were there. If you rewatch the game, the plays are there. You had the one rollout where I think it was like a pitch and catch where the receiver is wide open, but he completely sails him where he's rolling to his left. I do think Ohio State has a great defense. I just personally don't know how great that is, and it's hard to judge when I think the quarterback on the offense they're playing was so atrocious. Like, I can't. How can I judge how good that secondary really is?
Well,
I think they're good. Don't get me wrong. I just don't know how.
Sure, I get your point. And again, I've covered the same ground, so I totally get your point. I do think that Ohio State's offense would produce a lot more later in the season. They completely played to this style game. Now, I get your point as well in looking at the box score, which I have yet to do. But I watched that game. I think I do so pretty unbiasedly, not in terms of how I'm rooting. I'm rooting 100%. But I never thought that Texas was outplaying Ohio State. If they would have won that game at the end, I would have thought they completely stole that game. Like, I thought Ohio State was in control of that game and outplaying Texas the entire time. It's just that Ohio State went into a phone booth and they didn't think that Texas could score. So Ryan Day didn't want to put his quarterback in a situation where he was going to make a mistake and possibly lose the game. So once they got a touchdown on the board, they didn't do much of anything. Plus, I'd have to rewatch the game to see how it got to this point, but Texas pretty much controlled they had the field position in their favor the entire second half. Ohio State was boxed in behind the 10-yard line like constantly.
Yeah, so two things there. One, and maybe this is a Brian Hartline thing, but that was almost their offense schematically, scheme-wise, and how they looked was almost carbon copy of 2023 Ohio State's offense. It couldn't be more similar. The formations, the over-targeting of one receiver, everything about it just felt like the 2023 Ohio State offense. And I don't know if that's a Brian Hartline thing or not. I will say about the Ohio State defense, I do think the linebacker's great, but maybe it's just the D-line, but the front seven to me was pretty underwhelming. And maybe Texas has a great O-line. Maybe they have the best O-line in the country. I don't know. But this is why it's also so disappointing in Arch. He had all day to throw for the majority of that game.
Exactly.
All day.
Yes.
Like you could have set up a picnic back there with the amount of time you throw.
Yep.
So we'll see. It was a very interesting game. I think, it's a great win. I think they're for sure making the playoffs. And by the way, the game went exactly how I said it was going to go, Mark. I said that I thought that Ryan Day would have Julian Sand in more successful positions. He would put them in positions to succeed, and if their O-line protected them, I thought they would win the game. That's exactly how I thought it was going to go. Last thing I'll say is about my team. Michigan kind of disappointed me personally today in several aspects. Defensively, I think, and maybe this is a wink thing, over-rotating. Going 3 deep in the secondary, going like 4 deep on the D line, not letting players get reps, over blitzing, things like this. That's disappointing. They got to shore that up before Oklahoma. And then I'm pretty sure you're gonna rewatch it. Bryce Underwood, if you didn't know what year of college he was in, you'd probably think he was a junior watching him tonight. No joke. He was calm. His pocket presence was great. His ball placement was the best I've seen and I know it's New Mexico, but for a guy that just turned 18, for him to be as poised and accurate as he was, you couldn't tell me that guy just turned 18 years old.
Wouldn't you say the same thing about Julian Sand? And he was playing one of the best defenses in the country. And he had no support of a running game. None.
Yeah. Here's the difference for me. I do think I would say that about Julian Sand. One, Julian Sand is a sophomore. And two, I just think Ryan Day is the best in the country. And no matter who the quarterback is, with those weapons, making sure that they're comfortable. No one in the country is better than Ryan Day at setting up his quarterbacks to succeed and be comfortable. I know people like to crap on Kyle McCord a lot, but I thought he did a great job with Kyle McCord. If that was a 12-team playoff, they're in the playoffs. That was a one-loss thing. And who knows, maybe it's a different story. I thought he played great too. But I think considering the weapons that he has to work with, you'll see what I'm talking about. You go watch that game. He had this one block on the touchdown, and maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't. He blocked the linebacker, knocked the wind out of him as a quarterback. You'll see what I'm talking about. It's super impressive. I get what you're saying with Julian saying, but when you watch Bryce Underwood, I'm telling you, it's different. It's different.
Okay. Well, you pointed something out that is pretty obvious, but I got to admit I've never used it in defense of Kyle McCord. But if that Kyle McCord's season is one season later. He's 11-1, and they're in the playoff. He delivered a better record than Will Howard did.
That's what I'm saying. Bro, Kyle McCord, and maybe this is just me. I thought he got a bad rap, man. I thought he got a bad rap.
Oh, I think he did too.
He got a terrible. He was super accurate passer. He was very accurate. I mean, I just think he got a bad rap, and it is what it is at this point. But hey, man, go blue. I hope we improve in several areas because we need to, and we need to do it quick. So, yeah.
Very good. Thanks, man. Appreciate you being here. All right, folks, you can see there on the screen, that's just not Ohio State merch. That's merch for just about any team you can think of, minus our friend Neil Campbell's Nevada Wolfpack, who were barely defeated by the Penn State Nittany Lions. And let's get Neil's comment back to the screen here. Neil, thank you so much for the contribution. We appreciate you. And again, Nevada narrowly defeated by Penn State today, 46-11. Scored in the last 20 seconds of the game. Neil says, was a good day of football. The Pack will come out of this a better team, I hope. All right, folks, appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. And even though we typically take Sunday off, we've got football on Sunday. We got a doubleheader with South Carolina and Virginia Tech. We've got Miami and Notre Dame. So we will be on following the ladies of college football. I believe we will be, but then again, facing 6 consecutive shows after that, we shall see. That's why you subscribe and hit the bell for the notifications to know when we go live. Check out the merch store, vocfb.com, vocfb.com, and we will see you next time.